Hey, Harsh here. In our last video, we talked about the broad world of caching. Today, we are zooming in on a very specific and incredibly powerful type of caching infrastructure CDNs. If you have ever wondered how massive global websites load so quickly, no matter where you are in the world, CDNs are a huge part of the answer. We will explore what they are, how they work, their benefits, and why they are essential for almost any modern web application. What is a CDN? At its heart, a CDN is a large network of servers that are strategically placed in many different geographical locations around the world. These servers are often called edge servers or point of presence, which you will hear abbreviated as POPs. The main job of these edge servers is to store or cache copies of your website's content, things like images, videos, style sheets, JavaScript files, and sometimes even dynamically generating content much closer to where your actual users are. The ultimate goal is to deliver the content to users with high availability, high performance, and low latency. Think of it as instead of everyone in a huge city having to travel to one giant library to get a book, a CDN sets up many smaller branch libraries all over the city. People can go and get their books much faster from their nearest local branch. Those branch libraries are called CDNs edge servers. To understand why CDNs are so vital, let's consider the fundamental problem they solve distance. The internet is fast, but the speed of light is still physically limited. If your main web server, for example, the origin server, is in New York and the user tries to access your website from London, Tokyo, or Sydney, the data has to travel thousands of miles across undersea cables and various networks. This physical distance directly translates into latency or delay. This latency means slower load page times, which leads to a frustrating user experience. Nobody likes waiting for a website to load. CDNs are designed to dramatically reduce this distance induced latency. So, how does it happen? It's all about caching content at these distributed edge locations. Here's a simplified look at the workflow. Let's say a user wants to load an image from your website. Their request, often through some clever DNS routing, gets directed not to your origin server but to a CDN edge server that is geographically closest to them. Now, one of two things happen. If the edge server has a fresh copy of the image stored in the cache, we call this a cache hit. It serves the image directly to the user. This is incredibly fast because the distance is minimal. But what if the edge server doesn't have the image or its cached copy is old and stale? This is a cache miss. In this case, the edge server will go and fetch the image from your origin server. Once it retrieves the image from the origin server, it does two things. It stores a copy in its own cache for future requests from users in that region, and it serves the image to the local user who requested it. The beauty is that the next user in that same geographic area who requests the same image will very likely get a cache hit from that local edge server. The advantages of using CDN are pretty compelling for almost any website or application. It dramatically reduces web load times, and this is the biggest one. By serving content from servers physically closer to yours, you slash your latency and make the website feel much more faster. This is huge for user experience and even SEO. You reduce bandwidth costs from an origin server. Since the CDN edge server are handling a large portion of your traffic, your origin server doesn't have to serve as much data. This can lead to significant savings on the bandwidth bills, increased content availability, and redundancy. CDNs add a layer of resilience. Even if your origin server has a temporary problem, CDNs can often continue to serve cached content to users. Some even have features to serve like basic static versions of your website if your origin is completely offline. You also improve your website security because many CDN providers bundle in valuable security services like DDoS protection, web application firewalls to block malicious traffic and bot mitigation, and better scalability. By offloading so much of the asset delivery work, your origin server is freed up to handle more dynamic application specific requests, effectively increasing its capacity. So, what kind of content should you typically serve through a CDN? The most common and straightforward candidates are static assets. These are the files that don't change very often. All your images, videos, CSS style sheets, JavaScript libraries, and custom scripts. web fonts, and even things like software downloads and PDF documents. It is also possible, the more advanced, to cache dynamic contents or parts of on it on the CDN. This might include sections of HTML pages that are very common across many users and don't appear too frequently, API responses that can be cached for a short period, though this requires more careful thought about cache control headers and invalidation strategies. The general rule is, if content is requested a lot and it doesn't change constantly, it's great candidate for CDN caching. Just like any other cache, a CDN cache needs to be kept fresh. You don't want it to be serving old, outdated content. So, how do CDNs manage this? A primary way is through HTTP cache control headers. Your origin server includes these headers in its responses. For example, it might say cache control public max age 3600, telling the CDN and the browsers that this content can be only cached publicly for 3600 seconds or 1 hour. Headers like e tags and last modified also play a role. They allow the CDN to ask the origin server if this file hasn't changed since it was cached without having to download the whole file again if it hasn't. Most CDN providers also offer ways to manually purge or invalidate content from their edge caches. If you make an urgent update to an image or script, you can log on to your CDN dashboard or use an API to tell all the edge servers to remove their old cached copies. Another common technique is also versioning file names. If you want to change style sheets, you might rename to stylev2.css. Since it's a new file name, a CDN browsers will treat it as a new resource and fetch it fresh. The big challenge is always finding the right balance between caching content for a long time, which is great for performance, and offloading your origin and ensuring that users see updates quite reasonably. There are many CDN providers out there, from giants to more specialized players. When you are choosing one, consider performance and global reach. How many POPs do they have? And are they located in regions where your users are concentrated? What do they offer beyond basic caching? Do they handle dynamic content? Do they provide security services like DDoS protection and web application firewalls? What kind of analytics do they get? Can you run custom logic at edge? How easy it is to set up and manage? All of these questions should come naturally, and CDN pricing can vary. Some charge per gigabyte transferred, some per request, some have flat rates, and many offer generous free tiers for smaller sites. And don't forget support. How good is the customer service if you run into issues? Some of the big names you will hear is AWS CloudFront, CloudFlare, Google CDN, Akamai, Fastly, Azure CDN, and many others too. So to wrap it all up, content delivery networks are a fundamental piece of modern web infrastructure. By creating a distributed network that caches your content much closer to your end users, they provide a massive speed boost, reduce the load on your main servers, improve the overall availability of your content, and even add significant security benefit. If you have a website or application that serves users in different geographical locations, or if performance is a top priority, as it should be, then using a CDN is almost always a very smart move. Hey, if this video helped you understand this topic, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also drop your suggestions down in the comments about the improvements and the topics you would like me to cover next. Till then, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.